This episode of Vision, Hustle, Grit, and Gratitude is brought to you by our Michigan-based firm, MassMutual Great Lakes. Visit greatlakes.massmutual.com/careers today to start a conversation around opportunities to join our firm.
So you gotta have some grit. You gotta be able to show that you can persevere, that you can maneuver through challenging times, and that it doesn't matter, how many times you get knocked down. It's about picking yourself back up. And it's not only about picking yourself back up, it's how you show up when you pick yourself back up.
All right, folks. Well, here we are, Wednesday, 11 a.m. Eastern time. We're here with our guest for another episode of the Vision, Hustle, Grit, and Gratitude podcast. Man, I am so excited about today. We're 9 days away from Christmas. It's a holiday we love celebrating in my home. And look, I'm here as I was driving into the office this morning. I was thinking about today's podcast, and I'm here with three dear friends who have all at different times throughout my nearly 20-year career served as a teacher, coach, or mentor to me. And I'm chuckling because I've been in discussions with all three of them in this past year as well around areas for our firm and our teams to get better here in the great state of Michigan at doing what we do in serving our clients. And so I'm just so humbled that we were able to get on all three of their schedules here at the end of the year. Everyone's busy, but without further ado, I want to just jump into this because it's going to be a great conversation. And so I think, folks, if we could allow each of you to introduce yourself, and we'll go Katie, Kristen, and then Lisa, that would be wonderful. And Katie, you're up.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for dialing in. So I'm Katie Martineau. I am head of advisor teaming, transition planning, and field recruiting at MassMutual Financial Advisors. I've actually been in the financial services industry for just about 20 years as well, Manny. So around the same time as you. And I started working in the industry, came in cold calling for some financial advisors at a local firm, was putting myself through school. And it was a tremendous opportunity for me to really learn the business from the ground up. And so I've been able to grow my career step by step along this incredible journey, and really have pride myself on my work ethic and commitment, and then also to, growing and developing. So I have this passion of making sure that I'm continuing to grow and develop day over day and year over year, and learning from everybody around me, and then learning from, the mistakes that I've made along the way. So excited to be here, and look forward to learning from this group as well.
Love it. Welcome. Kristen.
Yeah, I'm Kristen Andre. I am down in Atlanta, so I'm the Southerner in the group today. Same thing. I've been in the financial services industry for 20 years. I started, though, in healthcare. I was a career changer, so was one of these people that went to school for something totally different than what I ended up doing in my career. And about 10 years ago, or 11 years ago now, I launched a coaching and consulting firm. So currently I coach and consult with financial advisors and female and executive women, and more on business strategy and development. I'm also a speaker, author, and a podcast host. So I'm excited to be with you guys. Can't wait to learn from the rest of you guys too.
Welcome, Lisa.
Hi, I'm Lisa Kelnick. Happy holidays and Merry Christmas. It's probably the one time of the year I can bring all these fun gadgets that I have out. But thank you for inviting me, and welcome to everyone. I've had the honor and pleasure, more or less, to work with Manny and Kristen over my 20-year career that I've had in the financial services industry. And, he says he learned from us. I'd turn it around and say I've learned a lot from him. And just, the people that come across your path, when you look back, how influential and how key it was. And sometimes could have been just a comment or a story that helped along the way there. I was a lot like Kristen. I was not intended to be in the financial services industry. I was a career changer. And when I came into the industry, I was just in awe at how credible and key individuals were when it came to really trying to figure out how they could do the best for others. So in my career, I did a lot with organization development. We did recruiting, we did training, we did coaching. And about 10 years ago, I also started at a coaching and consulting firm. And I am coaching with not only financial advisors, but also small business owners, particularly when they're looking to do succession planning and bring in that new generation of leaders and even a new potential owner there. So that's kind of been the path, and it's been exciting to, like I said, the interactions that we've had, not only with, like I said, I'm working with individuals who are now towards the end of their careers, where in the beginning I was working with a lot of college students who were just starting their careers. So to kind of see that transition throughout my 20 years has been awesome.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing that, Lisa, and welcome. So I want to get right into the questions. You know, Chad does such an incredible job of getting us ready for these conversations. And the first one I'm going to send to Katie and then Lisa, and it's really very COVID centric. So gang, in terms of when COVID arrived and it started to impact the hiring process and the systems that companies use for looking for the right talent and taking them through an interview experience, what have you seen as the greatest change because of COVID in this new virtual environment? And what is something that candidates should consider adjusting or doing to be better prepared for this virtual hiring environment? And let's start with Katie.
Yeah, so great question to kick it off. I'm the answer that's specific to the, financial services profession. And as we know, this profession has really built ourselves on being a face-to-face business. And we pride ourselves on meeting with individuals, meeting with clients and families, and interacting in that, personal way. And so our interview process has historically been built upon that face-to-face interview, being able to connect with people, have the candidates feel the culture within inside our firms and organizations. And this year that, obviously we had to make a dramatic shift. And one of the positive things that I've seen come from this is we've actually been able to speed up that candidate engagement and interview process. So being able to connect candidates with firm leadership teams, with firm leaders on Zoom, we've been able to move them through the process much more quickly, which I think is giving a little bit better of a candidate experience. When historically it's kind of coming in, trying to find time when everybody's in the office and in firm and organizing those in-person meetings. This has really helped candidates to move through the process in a quick way. And from a candidate's perspective, what can you do to be prepared? Do your homework, do your research up front, and get ready to move through that process in a quicker time frame. So, get that research out of the way and then be able to quickly flex and adjust to a faster candidate engagement process. So I think it's a positive. I think that's a positive candidate experience, and it's helped us become a little bit more effective and efficient for sure.
I love that. I love that you shared that. Thank you so much. And I could really, it really resonates with me in our organization that our candidates do get an opportunity to meet so many more people in a more efficient process because of the advantages of technology like Zoom. I love that. Lisa.
So I can even share from on the candidate side, my daughter had graduated in December, had a job in the sports arena, in the sports field. Needless to say, once COVID hit, that went away, and then she was back in the job hunt mix. And so we did a lot of prep trying to figure out exactly what's the best way to prepare for these interviews. How does she need to set up the environment? What does she need to wear? And just to walk through, because there's some small things that can have really huge impact. And, when I talk to some of my recruiter clients and leadership clients, their bigger concern, and Katie even mentioned this, is around how do you feel that vibe, right? Like, how do you really feel? Are they going to be a good fit in this organization? How can the candidate feel it? Kind of try to figure out also, will they fit into the organization? And so there's a lot of things that you have to try to create and get a feel for, whether they're nonverbals or even just verbal. And so some of the things that we really focused in on when she and I were practicing is not only around does she have concise answers and responses? Making sure that the technology is set up well. I think that's the other piece too that a lot of candidates weren't ready for. Companies weren't ready for, right? I mean, all the needs we were going to have around technology is definitely key. So even letting people around you know, hey, I'm going to be on the Zoom interview. Can you, either try to stay off the internet or just make sure to keep the noise down. That is really essential. Also, you're in again, kind of what you wear, right? To help tell your story. I go, that's what candidates need to figure out is how can I tell my story of who I am? And so even whether it's, wearing something like this, now most people won't, but it says a lot. So the colors that you're choosing when you're on the Zoom interviews, I think are key. And also, as Katie mentioned, you're going to have the opportunity to probably meet a lot more people than you would normally in that environment. So being prepared for that will be key. Having consistency on your answers and responses will be key. Too, I think on the core message that you really want them to understand about you. You're there to tell your story. And as easy as that sounds, I can tell you from many years of experience, sometimes that's the hardest thing candidates have when they're interviewing is to really know how to explain it and tell themselves, the best way, right, in a concise manner. So your nonverbals are going to be huge, just as much as your verbals will be really key.
Yeah, and two things came to my mind as you were talking. For me, when we're meeting candidates, I cannot tell you how consistently I'm impressed with the folks from Walsh College. And I'm going to use these two examples of what is consistent about the gang at Walsh. One, they bring great energy. Number two, they know that first impressions are made as soon as someone sets eyes on you. And I love the fact that they're always dressed for the part. That's so important, folks. And so, Lisa, you kind of opened those doors and it just made me think, gosh, that is something I'm always seeing from Walsh. I'm seeing it from Western Michigan. I'm seeing it from Wayne State, but I'm just so impressed. And so, gang out there, if you're listening, keep that up. Thanks so much for sharing.
Well,
that.
And let me just add, I remember the best coaching advice I got was always dress like you have somewhere better to go, right? So part of the research, as Katie said, is know what is that dress culture like, and then step it up. Right. So, I mean, not everything will be the same, but you'll never have to apologize if you always live by that mantra.
Lisa, I knew I should have put the tie on. I don't know why I called the audible at the last second. So this next one, look, Kristen and Lisa are working with folks around the clock, 365 days a year on the next move or getting, breaking through to that next level in your career. I want to send you a question that was really meaningful to Chad and I as we prepped today. And it's really around 2 to 3 nuggets of advice that you would give anyone, whether they're happy or they're unhappy in their current role, just 2 to 3 nuggets of advice that you'd give them on ensuring that they're on the right path to finding their next great breakthrough opportunity.
Okay, no, I think that's a great question because whether you're career disturbed and looking for something new, whether you're fresh out of college or whether you love what you do, you've always got to be looking how to level up. So I would say, for me, there's 3 of them. First and foremost, for anyone, anywhere, any industry, know your strengths. Know what it is you are uniquely qualified to do, what you're good at. Because, I've seen this in my own career progression. The closer I got to using my God-given talents, what I'm naturally strong at, the more satisfaction I had in my career. So first and foremost, know your strengths and leverage them in whatever role you're in. Second one would be find what gets you fired up, because I think I see too many people in the professional world that are just bored and they're going through the monotonous day after day. You got a lot of years to work, so you might as well do something that lights you up, gets you fired up, and that you enjoy doing. So that's my second one, is figure out what makes you come alive and where you can have some fun. Because I love what I get to do every day, so it doesn't seem like work. I'm not complaining. I love Mondays. It's one of my favorite days. That would be the second one. Find the fun, find what sets you on fire. And third, this is what I see, especially the younger generation. My kids are, a little bit younger. My oldest is in law school, so she's in her 20s. And what I see from that generation, especially the younger they get, they're not asking. So my third piece of advice would be ask for what you want. Seek out what it is you want. So if you're not having fun, find something fun. If you don't love the project you're on, ask to be put on something different. And if you're not happy, I promise you this, if you're not happy where you are, make a move. consider something different. I was like Lisa, I was not supposed to be in financial services. It was not what I was intending to do. But the more I got into the interview process, I was like, this is exactly what I want. It's fun. I enjoy it. It's firing me up, and I can have some freedom and flexibility. So that would be the big one, is just ask for what you want.
And Kristen, that last one, I think that one it's so powerful, and it's so consistently overlooked. The power of asking for exactly what you want. We never call a pizza parlor and say, just send me a za. No, you say, hey, I want pepperoni. Right? Like, that's what you say. Be specific in what you ask for. And it just reminds me, Samantha, my wife, has been giving me this advice since I got into the industry. Like, look, you're a terrible mind reader. You get a 0.0 on a 10-point scale at mind reading. Thank goodness you ask a lot of questions. And I think it's so powerful. It's so easily overlooked. And I don't think it really even comes down to like courage or confidence. I think it comes down to just respecting yourself. If it's important to you, ask for it, because most people are not great mind readers. Lisa.
What I'd add on that, it's about clarity, right? People follow clarity. People are attracted to clarity. So the more you can articulate that, the more attractive you're going to be. You're going to open up opportunities. I used to share this with people all the time, and this is all based off of research. And we probably can even say that we find ourselves in the same scenario, if you will, is that every 3 years, people look to make a change. Whether they're going to look outside their industry, they're going to look within their company, or they're going to choose to do nothing at all, is they're asking those questions, is this really where I want to be over the next 5 to 10 years? So if you're asking those questions to yourself, that's very normal. That's very natural. I think adding to what Kristen said is that not only, trying to get more clarity of what it is that you are looking for, it's the people that you have surrounded around you, right? So never underestimate the power of your network, no matter how young you are, is that network will be key. Some people are going to stay in that network for your whole life. Some people are going to come in and out of it for different reasons, but always being clear and connected, who's in your network, who do you need to be adding to your network, and how much effort are you putting into developing that network. So when those times come, when you are having that conversation, wondering, am I in the right role? What else is out there? Those will be the people that you'll have those conversations with and can ask more questions to help you gain even more clarity.
So let's pivot to another question. Let's make the assumption we know exactly what sets our soul on fire. We've got a clear and succinct story. We're asking for what we want. We bring the energy and dress the part. Katie, but where the heck do I go? There's no job fair. There's no networking event. There's no sales organization or association meeting on a monthly basis to help develop me. Katie, where do I go in this virtual environment? And how do I continue to connect with the right people at the companies that I aspire to be a great teammate at? And after Katie, let's take that to Kristen as well.
Yeah, so, another really great question. And this is going to piggyback a little bit about what Lisa was just speaking to. And it's leveraging your network. And I think this really rings true whether we're in a virtual environment or, we're back to meeting in person and having different networking organizations and career fairs. It's really leveraging those centers of influences and the people that you know to help you get in front of the right organizations, the right leaders at the career that you're looking for. You got to leverage your relationships no matter what stage or career of your career journey you're in. And one of the things that I learned early on was I had to develop my advocate list. And a mistake that I had made was I thought that my mentor was the same as my advocate, when in fact it could be two different people. And so the difference is an advocate is somebody who has an influential position, who's going to advocate on your behalf and have those conversations for you, to help you have the right introductions for whatever it is for your career that you're looking for. And those people are committed to helping you to succeed, where a mentor could be somebody who's helping to develop your career, help you along that professional journey, they might not be the person that's committed to helping you get and have those conversations to get you in front of the right people. So making sure you have that advocate list, and then you're crystal clear on what it is that you're looking for, helping them to understand where it is that you want to take your career and what is that next step in your journey. So I can't say enough, leveraging your network, no matter whether we're in a virtual environment or not, and identify those advocates and making sure you're having those conversations so they know where you want to go and what it is that you're looking for.
I wrote it down again because I remember the first time we met years ago, you were speaking to a huge audience of people in the talent space, and you shared your story. And you talked about how powerfully different those two people have been along your career progression. And so, thanks for sharing that again. It usually takes me 7 to 71 times to hear the same thing before it sticks. And so I wrote it down this time. Kristen.
I love that. I'm a big proponent of mentors and advocates. And there's a distinct difference. What I would add to that and how I would answer the question is engage. I mean, engagement is a big thing because I feel like I'm very big on social media. I love social media, but I feel like a lot of times, especially professionally, people have taken the social out of social media. They're using it as a broadcast platform. And I'm very active on LinkedIn. I get a lot of direct messages on LinkedIn, and to the point where I don't answer most of them because 99% of them are very self-serving. It's let me tell you what I can do. The ones that I respond to as a leader, as a business person, are the ones that try to engage me. So I feel like that's an opportunity in this world where everything has gone virtual. Get to know your mentors, your advocates, your centers of influence. Get to know the hiring managers and engage them. And it could be just conversational. It doesn't have to always be, hey, here's me, I'm looking for a job or I'm trying to be hired. It's really getting to know them and figuring out what makes them tick. Because the people that are going to engage back and be intrigued by you enough to help you or advocate for you or hire you are the ones that they feel they've gotten to know you. You know, Mandy, if I'm in a meeting with you and I'm looking at your background, you've got footballs in the background, I kind of get a good feel online about who somebody is and what makes them tick. So engage them on the personal front and the professional front. And I think you'll build relationships that even if they're not going to help you right now, they'll be long lasting and can help you in the future.
Yeah, thanks for saying that. And I'll tell you, I just met a new prospective client earlier this week, and we get on the Zoom, right, and it pops open, and he's young, he's handsome, he's successful, and he's got helmets in the background. And I'm like, boy, I really want to add value to this young man because I'd really like to work on his behalf. Hey, there's things, right, that we're all passionate about. And I think knowing that story and making that a part of the narrative when we communicate with people, it can be powerful. It can also work against you, as it has against me many times. I've many times been reminded.
But it helps you find the right culture fit, though. It does help you find people that, to Lisa's point earlier about who you surround yourself with. You want to surround yourself with people that you can engage with authentically, that you're not having to be somebody different than who you are.
Authenticity, that's right. Jackpot. I owe you for that one. Okay, let's pivot. So I want to send this one out to each of you because I'd love to hear your perspective on this. What is the most powerful, most valuable, most meaningful skill set that you've consistently hired young men and women for, that they've had or they've demonstrated?
So this one is interesting. It's hard to pick just one, and I might go with two. But I would say the number one skill set, and some will say it can be a characteristic. I think it could be a characteristic or a skill set, and that's grit. So you gotta have some grit. You gotta be able to show that you can persevere, that you can maneuver through challenging times, and that it doesn't matter, how many times you get knocked down. It's about picking yourself back up. And it's not only about picking yourself back up, it's how you show up when you pick yourself back up. So you can be going through different changes in an organization in your current career. You can be going through a challenging time, whatever it is. And if you're just showing up and you got a bad attitude, that's not grit and that's not persevering. You know, you want to show up and you want to learn from it and you want to grow, and you got to take the challenge, take that time, grab it, you know, harness it, and, you know, move through it. And that's when you will set yourself apart from the others in the pack, whether that's in your current career, whether you're looking for a new opportunity. It's got to be grit. And then, you know, just to piggyback on that a little bit, it's grit and then self-awareness. So making sure that you're showing up, you're persevering, but then are you self-aware? Are you self-aware of the things that you need to work on? Are you learning and growing and developing? And are you self-aware of how others are perceiving you? And so making sure that you have, you know, that determination and perseverance, but then you're also self-aware and working on the things that you need to grow and develop. Because, hey, we all got those things that we need to grow and learn and develop on. And if we're not learning and growing, then, you know, we're not taking it to the next level.
Yeah, it's great. That really resonated with me. We talk about bounce back ability all the time, right? And it's, hey, if you said it's critically important, it means so much to you. How quickly do you bounce back from something unexpected or a moment of adversity to what you said you would do? And it goes back to so many mentors in my life who say, hey, just do what you say you will do. Honor your basic commitments, and you'll be leagues ahead of 98% of the rest of the world. Lisa, so again, skill set you've consistently hired for and that folks should continue to develop and get better at.
So I'm going to follow Katie's lead, and I'm going to share two. And I'd say the number one skill set, which is probably been more apparent in this year of 2020, is adaptability. Situations, markets, we know that we always have to be adapting or adjusting consistently, but we have to be aware of when those changes occur, what the impact is, and how we need to adjust or adapt. So I'd say that's probably the most consistent, the number one. The second one is all around communication, because all those things that she just even described is how well can you communicate? How well can you share the message? How well do you listen and ask questions for you to really be able to be engaged? Because with that, the opportunities will be endless, right? I mean, people are going to follow that. People are going to want to engage more, which is then only going to open up more opportunities. So for me, those have really been the two, no matter what industry that I've been doing recruiting in. It was really around adaptability and then communication.
Awesome. Kristen.
All right, so I'm following the lead. And like I said, I'm from Georgia. We don't know how to count. I think the nation knows at this point. So I've got three. So, and I think the words may be different, but they're very similar in definition. So my first one is resilience. So kind of what Katie and Lisa both talked about. Resilience is, it does go to adaptability. It's, can I bounce back? Can I pivot? Can I change? Can I make any necessary tweaks that I need to do to my business, my role, whatever? So resilience is my first one. My second one is authenticity. I look for people that are uniquely themselves. I work with my clients all the time on what I call finding your uniqueifier. What is it that sets you apart from everyone else? I want that special quality in anybody that I'm working with, from a teammate to an employee to a client. I want them to be able to differentiate themselves. So authenticity, however that looks for you. I tend to be a little bit sassy and silly at times, and that shows up in my speaking and my work and everything. But I want people that can do the same and be authentic. And my third one would be work ethic. I typically tell people when I'm hiring, especially when I was, in the running a financial firm, was I can teach you anything about a career. I can teach you anything about an industry. I can't teach you how to work hard. So I do look a lot for work ethic and people being willing to put in the work that it takes to get things done and not expecting it to just be handed to them.
That last one really resonates, right? I mean, you could bring everything, but if you don't bring effort consistently around what matters most, yeah, that's tough. Good. Thanks so much. That was great. And this one, I'm going to send this one to Katie. Okay. With Katie working in a massive corporate office, Katie, you and I agree, culture is everything, right? The greatest companies will stand the test of time because they understand that their people, their humans, are their greatest asset. And so I know that culture is really important for candidates to do to research, to try to learn more about, to understand what a company's priorities are around culture and their programs and resources. Katie, in a virtual environment, how would you recommend that candidates go about learning about a company's culture before their first interview?
Yeah, so this has been something that we've been chatting a lot with the firms across the country, and it's how do we help showcase our culture in this virtual world? And I think especially in financial services, our firms, rightfully so, they pride themselves on the cultures in their firms and what they're building across the community. And so how the heck do you communicate that to candidates in a virtual world? And how do you, and as a candidate, how do you learn about a company's culture when you're not inside really feeling what the company's culture is like, walking through the hallways? I know I'm an empathic person, and so walking into an office, walking into a firm, I automatically feel what that culture is. I get a sense of it. And that's really hard to do over Zoom and in a virtual world. Doesn't mean it's not possible, though. So I think a couple things. As a candidate, if you want to learn a little bit about a company's culture, you got to check them out on social media. Check them out on social media, see what's happening, go to their website, learn about the events that they're having, see what their posts look like. Are they showing up in a thoughtful way? Do they have a diverse environment? Identify those things that matter most for you as a candidate, and then look for their presence online. And then once you're in the virtual environment and going through that interview process, ask questions along the way. Ask if you can meet with other people from the team. Ask if you can, even if you're interviewing with a large organization, can you meet with others from another department? And start learning about, I always like to ask, what was one of the biggest challenges that your department or your team had over the past year? And what did you learn from it? That helps you give a little insight into how an organization might tackle and handle challenges. Also like to ask about, when you're in an office, how do you all get together for lunch? What does that look like? What are some of the things that you do together outside of the 8 hours or the regular work schedule? And that just helps you understand what is the camaraderie, and is this a part of an organization that aligns with what you're looking for with values and the culture alignment?
And that last point you made, it really resonates with me. Although our entire firm is going to call me a hypocrite for making this comment. I rarely eat lunch with folks, but I got to tell you, when you ask that question, look, folks, it's scientifically proven that teams that eat together stay together longer. I don't know what it is. I don't know all the science and data behind it, but it's proven. And so that's so important to join. If it's important to you to join an organization that you want to be long-term, gosh, what a simple question to ask and see how folks respond.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that, Katie. You were going to say something else.
Yeah, no, so my managing partner who brought me into the business, that was one of the first things he said to me as I started growing my career and being a leader as part of his organization. He said, as a leader, he said, never eat lunch alone. So when you're in my firm, I want all my leaders making sure that they're having lunch with somebody, whether it was an advisor, a staff member, whoever. He said, never eat lunch alone. So I've taken that with me throughout my career for sure.
Thanks for sharing that. Okay, so this next question is for each of you. And what's a simple piece of advice specifically for college students that you'd give them right now as they enter the job market for the first time? Just the simplest piece of advice, recent college graduate entering the job market for the first time. And let's start with Lisa.
I would say practice. So as you're preparing for your interview or your discussion, is you can go online and find out what are the top 5 interview questions. I mean, you'll get list upon list upon list. But here's what too often I experience is I'd have individuals who come in and they hadn't even practiced And I'd ask one question, and right off the gates, they were already trying to fumble to figure out how to respond to it. So even though you might not know every question, you're going to know the majority of the questions. So I know, again, when my daughter was when she was interviewing, we would role play and we would practice. So that way, when it was time for the interview, that was game time. That wasn't practice time. That was game time. And so that allowed her to be able to communicate very consistently and concisely. And then at the end, we'd ask, did you feel like you were able to really demonstrate who you are as a person? Do you think they got to understand who you were? And if she would either say, yep, I did, or nope, here's how I can do that a little bit differently. And part of the way to do that is I say, have stories and have examples, because that's what they want to hear. I can tell you, yep, I work really hard, I've got grit, I'm resilient, but it's when I can tell a story or give an example, now I, on the other side of that table, can really connect and really start to feel like I understand who you may be, right? And guess what? When I get done with that interview and someone else on my team goes, hey, how was the candidate? I'm going to tell those stories, because that's how I got to know you. And that's how I really feel like I can share, here's who they are as a person, here's what drives them, here's what their resilience was. So really have stories kind of in your back pocket. You don't need 100 of them, but I always feel like people really underestimate what their strengths are, and they've lived them, but they don't know how to tell that. And so you have to really you have to think through ahead of time how you want to tell that. Don't just feel like, well, it'll come to me on the fly, right? It might, but I found out most of the time it doesn't like you want it to. So get prepared and practice. So you're doing it more by design, not just hoping that it goes well, and move on to the next interview. So that would be my simplest advice.
In practice, that just resonates so much with me. I think about how Chad sends me the questions 3 different times leading up to every podcast. And he reminds me. And so I read them. And then the next time I read them again. And then I read them again. And then he sends them to me in audio, so I listen to it the morning of. And if it wasn't for having such a great partner like the story of you to your daughter to help me practice and prepare, these moments would be massive train wrecks. So I love practice. It really resonates with me. And thank you for sharing that. That was powerful. Kristen.
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback on Lisa, because I agree the practice is huge, but I want to pull a little bit more with the stories, because that's critical. What my advice would be to people fresh out of college, and I'm, like Lisa, I have a child that age as well, is if we're hiring you or interviewing you, we'd understand that you are fresh out of college. So I would much rather hear how you life examples in your stories of how you exhibited the traits I'm looking for. Because really, right out of school, I'll see too many people that try to interview and say all the things they've done, which, once you get a little older, you're like, you've been in the workforce a minute and a half. You haven't really done that much. I would much rather hear the resilient stories, even if it was high school or competitive sports or a part-time job, whatever it is. Understand that the hiring people, for somebody right out of college, we know that you guys are new. We know that this is a brand new thing to you. So I would say, build on the stories and tell what you do. Show your strengths through the stories. And then also the other piggyback to that would be, don't necessarily wait for something perfect. At this point, when you're first out of school, especially in today's environment, I'll see a lot of people turn down phenomenal opportunities because it's not 100% what they want. And take a risk. Try something that may not be exactly what it is, because if the values are there, the culture, and you can use your strengths, you're going to get something great out of it, even if it's not your lifelong career. So take the risk.
Love that. Thank you. Katie.
Hey, can I just
Lisa.
add to Kristen's? I just want to add to that and how key that is, right? And this is a true story, or this is, I guess, one of my examples. I was interviewing it was a nonprofit. It was my first job right out of college. And they were asking me, the question was, why do you feel that you're equipped for this role, right? That you can work with people and really motivate them to want to volunteer. And the example I gave them was one of my jobs that I had in college. I was a blackjack dealer. And so I related it as to what my role was as a blackjack dealer, what I had to encounter, how that worked. And he told me 5 years later, The only reason I got that job was because of how I told the blackjack story. He goes, I'll never forget that story. And he goes, never did I think blackjack would have any correlation to what we do here, but you got the job because of that way to tell the story, but more importantly, kind of translate, here's the skill set I got. This is how it would fit in this world.
Love that.
Now we
That's
know
a
who
true story. I was a blackjack dealer.
Katie.
So I'm going to underscore, what Lisa and Kristen, what both these ladies have said. I agree. It takes the practice, telling the story. And, I was really thinking about this morning, and it goes along the lines too with taking the risk. So a lot of times you'll see, especially with women, is they're less likely to apply for a job that they might not feel that they're fully qualified for. And so they hold themselves back from even interviewing. And so if you don't think it's the total right position, or if you don't think you're 100% qualified, look at the interview for the role anyways, because at the very least, you'll make a new connection and you're going to get the practice. Because it's got to take a lot of practice and a lot of time just communicating what you're looking for and learning along the way. And I always say that a no is just one step closer to the yes. So if you don't get the role, if you don't get the position, that's okay. Any no is just one step closer on your journey to finding that right role, to finding your next career. So take the risk, be open to interviewing for a lot of different roles. Don't pigeonhole yourself, and making sure that you're practicing. And then the last thing that I'll say is ask for feedback. So if you're interviewing for a position and you don't move forward in the interview process, or you get declined, ask for feedback on what you could do differently, or what are the things that that organization is looking for that you might want to work on and grow and develop, so that you'll be a good fit for the next time.
Yeah, when you said, take the risk, that, that really resonated with me. I remember back, almost 20 years ago when I met my mentor, Joe Gergley. And we met for the first time at a restaurant. I remember having a conversation with him, and I was so excited. I was 2 years out of college, and I was like, look, I'm just dead set on wanting to be in sales because I want to control my income and my calendar independence once I'm successful. And he said, well, what about impact? Like, don't you want to sell something that provides tremendous value? And he talked about the nobility of the profession that I chose. And man, I'll tell you what, he's one of the greatest storytellers, mentors, influencers, inspirers of my life. And it's through his gift of storytelling and sharing all the impact he had made at such a young age on behalf of serving families that I said, I want to become a financial advisor. And I had never thought that for 1 second in my life. For those of you who know me, you remember my story. I'm like, hey, I'm going to become Batman. I'm going to become the middle linebacker for the Chicago Bears, or a very successful businessman someday. One of the greatest gifts our parents gave us, Mama Mina and Papi Beto, was to dream. And those are my 3 dreams. And so, here I am still working on that third one of being a competent, capable, and courageous business owner. But so take the risk. And I did that 19 years ago. And what a blessing it has been to our lives. So thanks for sharing that. So powerful. Look, as always, we always run out of time. We're about 13 minutes out. I want to pivot to Chad Miles, the visionary and storyteller of our firm, my right-hand partner and partner in crime. And he's going to take a few questions from the audience.
Manny, thank you. And thank you, Kristen, Lisa, and Katie. It's been a phenomenal session so far. So we want to open it up to some audience Q&A. We had a couple that were submitted beforehand, which we'll use to get started. If you'd like to ask a question, you can use the raise your hand function. You're going to find that at the bottom of your screen. And if you raise your hand, I can actually give you the ability to unmute your microphone and ask your question live to our panel. And so we'll have Manny jump in on some of the Q&A as well. So again, use that raise your hand function just to get us started. I'm going to use one of the questions that was submitted before. Manny, you mentioned the folks from Walsh College, and shout out to Walsh again for a great representation here today. I got a question from Liz Gowell, and her question in particular, she was asking about LinkedIn. And Kristen, maybe you could kick us off because you mentioned a little bit of the way that you use LinkedIn personally. Tell us a little bit more about maybe how you use it and what candidates in the job market, what they might be able to learn and how they can use a platform like LinkedIn to benefit them.
I love LinkedIn. I think it's phenomenal. I think from a young age, my college students on it. I'm trying to get my high schooler on it. It's a connection tool. And that's where people make the mistake is people are trying to broadcast and post. I'm way less concerned with posting than I am with engaging. So if you're in college or really at any age, try to engage. Comment on people's posts is the first one, and really have a conversation. Try to start a dialogue. Think of it as a way to be a conversation starter. The second quick, easy thing is the notifications at the top of the page. Click on notifications. It tells you who's changed jobs, who's got a work anniversary, who's got a birthday. Send them a message. So it's really about engagement. The third thing I use in some of their more advanced features is you can find out when people have been featured in articles, anything big and newsworthy. I'll take that article and either pick up the phone and call them and say, hey, I read your article in Wall Street Journal. It was a great quote, really impressed. Or maybe send them an email, but use it as an engagement tool. And if your name and face is in front of people consistently, they'll remember you and it will continue to come back to you, help you. I always tell people, put the good out there, let go of the outcome, but it always comes back to you.
Anyone else on the panel? Any other thoughts on LinkedIn? Manny, I know it's something that we use a lot at the firm that you've been involved in. Tell us a little bit from your perspective, the role that LinkedIn plays.
And I was going to say, I love people who keep it simple. As you know, Chad, I mean, you've done such a great job of helping us grow our reach through social media. And as we approach 20,000 connections on my personal account, it's difficult to read every message. And so if people write novels, it's likely going to go unread. I think keeping it simple, clear, concise, maybe even asking, hey, can I send you a message via email? Would that be okay? And what's your preferred email address? When people do that, I respond back every time. And because I see that as someone who says, gosh, I bet he's busy, or I hope he's busy. And let me demonstrate some etiquette in how I'm going to engage someone cold. So I'd say that's the simplest piece of advice I could give. Keep it simple, keep it short, ask to take it out of the social media platform, because at the end of the day, it is a platform and people for some reason think posting more is doing better. And no. Doing better is add more value in your posts. Don't post more.
I think that's great. Folks, just as a reminder, you can use the raise your hand feature if there is a question that you'd like to ask live for our panel. We're gonna keep rolling. There was another question that we had submitted before the session today, which was around specifically, it was what was your favorite question to be asked in an interview? So as business owners, as recruiters, as hirers, if someone, and let's expand it beyond just an interview. If you're interacting with a candidate, whether it be maybe at a networking event, recruiting fair, it's online in your LinkedIn inbox, what could they be asking about you, about your company that would stand out to you and that you'd appreciate?
Well, I can start because this was a question that I told my daughter to ask at the end of her interview, that she came back and it actually gave me some street cred about the whole thing. Because she goes, Mom, every time I've asked this question, they're like, that's the best question we've ever been asked. And it's really simple. At the end, it was, is there a question that I didn't ask that surprised you? And all it does is it turns it right back to that interviewer. And a lot of times they might pause. Every once in a while, they'll have, I was kind of surprised you didn't ask me about this or this. But what it does is, again, it helps you stand out. And if there's anything that wasn't clearly connected, they'll make sure that they cover that right there. So it's real simple. Is there a question that I didn't ask that surprised you?
I love that. And can I just go next really quick? Because I was hoping you'd let me. So I love this question because when someone asks me, what is the most significant thing you look for when you hire someone? I just think that allows them then to talk about how they might have that skill set, that characteristic, or tell me a story that helps me have confidence that that's them. And that, to me, when people ask me, what's a reason or the most common reason that we're hiring folks at our firm? You know, I love to share that. I love to respond to that and then let them tell me a story.
That's great. You talk about simple, right? And just being able to ask a question where if you want to know what someone hiring, if what they're looking for, just ask, right? Just ask.
Yeah, I
That's
love
fantastic.
that, Manny. Yeah, I also love, you know, when a candidate, I shared this earlier, asks about the biggest challenge. So really trying to understand a little bit of the culture and how we tackle challenges and how we learn and grow. And then even thinking about the why. So I've had candidates ask about, like, why am I in the role that I am, working for the organization that I work for, and really trying to dig in and understand what my values are. And that shows me that they're looking for that value alignment. And then we're able to take my why and I can learn about their why. So really kind of getting in the story behind what we do. I was reading a Harvard Business Journal article the other night, and I was thinking about this upcoming podcast, and it was how you can find the why in your career, no matter what you're doing. So Kristen talked a little bit about this early on, and it's really finding passion and finding a career that you love. And I think you can do that even in your current career today. Just spend some time digging in and identifying that impact. So what is it that you're doing that's making an impact, even if it's not in the way that you initially thought or dreamed about? You're maybe in, you know, a role that you didn't think was the perfect fit for you. If you dig in and find that why, that's going to help motivate you and have you keep showing up every day. You'll learn and grow. And I promise, if you have that passion behind you, everybody's going to recognize, they're going to feel your energy, and you will get to where you want to go.
Kristen, you have to have like 100, but you can only share one.
I know. No, I see. You know, here's what's funny. I don't have a particular question. What I would look for, the best question you could ask me is a follow-up to something that let me know you were paying attention during our interview and that you wanted to pull more information. So it's not a particular question. In an interview for me, I'm looking for connection more than stats and figure, which is so funny because I'm a strategy person, I'm a business strategist, but in an interview, I look for the vibe and the connection. So if I get a sense, whatever you ask me, that you wanted more information, you're seeking clarification, and you were dialed in, that's the perfect question.
Love that.
That's great. That's all we got for Q&A here. So as we come up on the top of the hour, Manny, I'm still in hosting duties for a minute, but I'm going to pass it back to each of you panelists, all four of you, just to give people an opportunity. Look, this is an opportunity to continue a conversation. And so if each of you can just share, if someone wanted to reach out to you directly, if they wanted to ask you a question or leave a comment with today's discussion, how can people find you and connect with you? And so let's start with Kristen, Lisa, Katie, and then we'll end with Manny.
Yeah, social media is the best way. Well, my website, easy, it's andregroup.com, and Andre has two E's, so ANDREE group.com. On all social platforms, I'm at Andre Group. So super easy. I'm very active on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, everywhere. And our podcast is on iTunes as well. So love to connect with you guys.
And my website is spokewheelcoaching.com. So SPOKE wheelcoaching.com. I'm on LinkedIn. Love to connect with you on LinkedIn. Or like I said, check out my website, which has all my contact info on there.
Yeah, you can connect with me. LinkedIn, definitely the best social media platform. So you can connect with Katie Martineau there, and then kmartineau@massmutual.com. So feel free to connect on LinkedIn or shoot me an email. Would love to, connect and chat and answer any questions that we didn't hit on today's podcast.
Awesome. And so thank you to the three of you and to Chad. That this absolutely could never be possible without him. As always, folks know you can find me on LinkedIn under my full name, Manuel Amezcua, and or on Instagram under Detroit Manny. That is the simplest way to find me. Follow us. We love sharing our story. These conversations are about talking to the best of the best and learning from the best of the best, the 1% of the 1%, if you will, around these different critical areas for success and happiness in life. And so our 4 pillars, as you know, are vision, hustle, grit, and gratitude. And let me leave you with the last aside. I can't remember the last time I didn't hire somebody that did 2 very specific things authentically, where I could tell the authenticity that existed. 1, when they email me in advance of our first conversation to acknowledge that they've done research, they're prepared, and they're excited to connect. That's really powerful. Number 2, handwritten notes. I keep them all. These are the ones I collected in this calendar year of 2020. They sit on my coffee table. They're meaningful. And look, I was looking at it in the top note from a championship team, Bronco Nation. I love getting these. I hire based on those little things. Starbucks experience, chapter 2. Everything matters. Hey, have a wonderful holiday season. Be kind, be polite, pay compliments. It's so easy to be likable, and being likable allows you to earn more time with the people that you care about, you respect, and you admire. And relationship is everything. Don't forget that. Happy holidays.
Happy
holidays.
Holiday.
This episode of Vision, Hustle, Grit, and Gratitude is brought to you by our Michigan-based firm, MassMutual Great Lakes. Growing up as one of 4 boys outside of the city of Chicago, my brothers and I enjoyed an unbelievable abundance of faith, family, fitness, becoming ferocious competitors as young men, and gratitude for what it means to live in a free country. The one thing we lacked a little bit of on a consistent basis was financial resources. And lacking that level of financial security and stability and success prevented us from having one very special thing throughout our lives, which was consistently having the power of choice. Becoming a professional in our industry means that you have the opportunity to architect your clients, your friends, your family's financial household, their plan to create financial well-being and success throughout their lives. This alone empowers people to have the power of choice for themselves, their families, and the businesses that they serve and represent. Our firm is based in Southeast Michigan, and we're always looking to bring on great people making great decisions consistently delivers great outcomes. If you'd like to learn more about career opportunities with our firm, visit greatlakes.massmutual.com/careers to start a conversation with our team today. We look forward to hearing from you.
For more insights from top performers in sports and business, be sure to subscribe to Vision, Hustle, Grit, and Gratitude wherever you get your podcasts. Also, you can follow us on Instagram at Vision, Hustle, Grit, and Gratitude. Until next time, keep doing great things.